Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Soul Whispers Coming Home to You. This is episode 7, the full moon in Scorpio, the truth about the relationship that required you to disappear. Let's begin by taking one slow breath together, in through your nose and out through your mouth, letting your body know that for the next little while, nothing is required of it except to receive. My name is Susan. I'm a certified somatic trauma-informed coach, and you'll find the rest of my credentials in the show notes below. But more than that, I am someone who spent nearly 40 years in a relationship built on trauma bonds, intermittent reinforcement, and walking on eggshells. And I found my own way back to myself once I finally had the language for what I had been living. I don't guide you from a place of theory. I guide you from a place of having walked this road. And I found that it does lead somewhere beautiful. 7 Sundays now, 7 weeks of coming home. The whisper, the seed, the voice, the safety, the fire, the becoming. And today, we go somewhere that all of it has been quietly preparing you for. Today, we go deep. On Friday, May 1st, the full moon in Scorpio rises. And Scorpio is the sign of what lives beneath the surface, of shadow work, of the truth we have been keeping in the dark, of the relationship patterns that required our disappearance, and the releasing of those patterns under the most illuminating moon of the season. Full moons are always about culmination, about something that was seeded at the new moon now being fully illuminated, brought into the light whether we invited it or not. And this Scorpio full moon, arriving just 2 weeks after the most powerful new moon of the year, is asking a very specific question. It is asking, what truth have you been keeping in the dark? Not to expose you, not to hurt you, but because what lives in the dark cannot be released until it is first seen. And you, after 7 weeks of building the safety, the voice, the fire, the becoming, you are finally ready to see it clearly. And that is what we do today. Now let's begin. There's a particular kind of relationship that doesn't announce itself as dangerous. It doesn't leave bruises, it leaves you slowly. So slowly that you don't notice you've been disappearing until the day you look in the mirror and struggle to recognize who's looking back. If this is your first time here, welcome. In each episode, I share a bit about my past, assuring you that while I am in a much better place today, I did spend 4 decades in a relationship that asked me to make myself smaller. Not in a single demand, in 1,000 small ones. The opinion that was dismissed, the feeling that was rearranged into something more convenient. The version of me that was acceptable, quiet, accommodating, careful, versus the fuller version that kept getting crowded out of the room. I smiled through things that deserved a very different response. I found ways to understand behavior that didn't deserve to be understood. I called it love. And in many ways, it was love, complicated and real and genuinely present in the spaces between everything that wasn't right. That is what makes these relationships so difficult to name and so difficult to leave. Because you were not wrong about the love. You were simply wrong about whether love alone was enough to make a relationship safe. It wasn't. It never is. And then there was Beverly. That is not her real name, but for this purpose, I will call her Beverly. It was just an ordinary afternoon. The children were napping. I was picking up toys from the living room floor when the phone rang. His voice on the other end was accusatory before I had even said hello, telling me that Beverly, a woman he worked with, had said I called her, that I told her to back off. I remember it so clearly. I stood there genuinely confused. I didn't even have her number. I had barely heard her name more than a handful of times. Something in my steadiness seemed to reach him. His tone shifted, uncertain now, as if he was recalculating. He hung up, sounding confused himself. I set the phone down, and I sat in the silence of that ordinary afternoon. And then it came. Not a thought exactly, but a knowing. A slow, nauseating certainty that rose from somewhere beneath my stomach, the way truth always does when we have been trying very hard not to find it. They are more than friends. I just knew it. I didn't confront him. I didn't have the ground beneath me to stand on yet. I simply carried the knowing quietly, adding it to everything else I was already carrying, carefully, without letting it show. That wasn't the first time he cheated. I had been warned in the past by a friend and ignored those signs, even though my body, which is always our biggest alert system, was sounding the alarms to run. I didn't even have children yet. It would have made it easier to leave. But I stayed. Later, I would learn the power of trauma bonds and why it's so difficult to leave a relationship even when it's not healthy. We will talk more about trauma bonds in future episodes. Now, at one point, he broke down and he came clean. He begged me for forgiveness and admitted to many more one-night stands, as he called them. I was disgusted. I was humiliated. Then I felt embarrassed of what those who knew about these incidents thought of me, knowing I was being cheated on behind my back. And then it was very strange because I felt shame even though I was the innocent one. I feel like the shame came from feeling that I wasn't good enough, that he cheated because something was wrong with me. I then pulled away in the relationship, but I stayed and I forgave each time. I found a way to forgive him, not because I stopped hurting, but because I stopped believing that I deserved anything different. And that is the deepest truth about the relationship that required my disappearance. It was not just what he did. It was what I believed about myself as a result of it. And that belief that I did not deserve different is what the full moon in Scorpio is asking you to finally bring into the light. And perhaps your relationship looked different from mine. Perhaps it was a parent rather than a partner, or a family member who caused you harm, or a friendship where you were always the giver and never the receiver, or even a workplace that consumed everything you had and acknowledged nothing. Perhaps it was a pattern across many relationships, the same dynamic, but in different clothes. You see, the form doesn't matter. What matters is the pattern, the place where you made yourself smaller than you are, the truth you kept in the dark about what it was costing you, the knowing you carried quietly without letting it show. The Scorpio full moon is asking you to let it show now, in the safety of this space, in the company of 7 weeks of coming home to you, here, where you are finally ready. Now let's talk a little more about this Scorpio full moon. Full moons occur when the sun and moon stand in direct opposition to each other in the sky. And this one places the sun in Taurus, the sign of earthly security, material comfort, the tangible things we hold on to, directly opposite the moon in Scorpio, the sign of what lies beneath all of that, of what we keep hidden, of the deep emotional truth that security and comfort sometimes serve to cover over. The Taurus-Scorpio axis is one of the most profound in astrology. It asks the question, what are you holding on to for security that may actually be keeping you from the transformation your soul is asking for? In the context of this community, in the context of your healing journey, that question has a very specific answer. The relationship, the pattern, the version of yourself that disappeared inside of it, the truth about what it cost you that you have been carrying quietly in the dark for however many years it has been there. The Scorpio full moon does not ask gently. It illuminates. It brings what was hidden into full, unavoidable light, not to punish, but because what lives in the dark cannot be released until it has been fully seen. Now, Scorpio is unique in astrology also because it has 3 symbolic evolutions, 3 stages of becoming that mirror the healing journey with extraordinary precision. The first is the scorpion, the creature that moves along the ground, that carries its sting as a defense, that has learned to protect itself through the armor it wears. This is the stage of survival, of having been hurt and building whatever protection was available. Many of us spent years here in the relationship in survival mode, the sting of our own defenses directed inward as much as they were outward. The second is the eagle, the creature that rises above, that gains altitude, that can see the whole landscape from a perspective that the ground dweller cannot access. This is the stage of the healing work you've been doing in this series. Rising above the immediate emotional weather to see the patterns more clearly, understanding what happened, finding the language, gaining the perspective. And the third, and this is what the full moon in Scorpio is offering you right now, is the phoenix, the creature that goes through the fire and emerges transformed. Not the same creature that entered, not simply repaired, but reborn. Every ending the Scorpio full moon asks of you is a phoenix moment, not a loss, but a transformation. The relationship that required your disappearance does not end so that you have less. It ends so that you have room to become who you were always meant to be. Now, Mercury, the planet of voice, communication, and the naming of things, is currently conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer, in Aries. This alignment is specifically about healing communication, about finding the words for the wound, about having the courage, Aries courage, fire courage, to finally say out loud what has been living in silence. This is the cosmic invitation underneath today's episode, not just to feel what you have been keeping in the dark, but to name it, to give it language, to bring it from the wordless underground where it has been living into the clear, dignified truth of a sentence that says, "This is what happened. This is what it cost me, and I am ready to release it." And then we have Venus, the planet of love, worth, and what we believe we deserve. And it's currently in Taurus, her home sign, operating at full strength, bringing the energy of worthiness and self-value to everything that happens under this full moon. What this means for you is this: the releasing you do today and this week is not an act of loss. It is an act of love for yourself. Venus in Taurus says, you are worthy of the space that is created when you release what no longer belongs. You are worthy of the relationship with yourself that becomes possible when you stop organizing your life around someone who required your disappearance. Let that land before you go any further. You are worthy of the space. You are worthy of what comes after the releasing. You always were. Now, I want to explore this phrase, the relationship that required your disappearance, because I think it names something that many people have lived, but few have heard named clearly. Every relationship involves some degree of accommodation, of adjusting yourself to the presence of another person, of choosing your moments, managing your expression, giving ground in the places that don't matter so that the ground you keep is what truly counts. This is not disappearance, this is love. Disappearance is something different. Disappearance is when the accommodation becomes so total, so sustained, so fundamental to the survival of the relationship that the self who entered it is no longer recognizable in the self who remains. Disappearance happens in increments. There is rarely a moment you can point to and say, there, that is when I became someone I no longer recognized. Instead, it's a slow process, a series of small retreats, small surrenders, small decisions to make yourself a little less so that the room stays a little safer. In a relationship that requires your disappearance, self-abandonment tends to show up in very specific ways. In the editing that happens before you speak, the internal calculation of whether this truth, this opinion, this feeling is worth the cost of expressing it. In the way you speak about yourself, the self-depreciating humor that becomes less funny over time and more just true, and the preferences you quietly stop having because they caused friction. And it shows up in the body, in the tightness of your jaw, the held breath, the physical bracing that becomes so habitual, you stop even noticing it. And in the way you learned to read a room before you enter it, to know in the first second of walking through a door what the next few hours were going to require of you. It shows up in the way you relate to yourself outside the relationship. The difficulty believing that your needs are legitimate. The habit of putting everyone else first. Not from genuine generosity, but from the learned belief that your own needs are less important, less valid, less worth the trouble of attending to. Self-abandonment in a relationship is not a single act of surrender. It is the accumulation of 1,000 small ones, each of which seemed, in the moment, like a reasonable, loving, peacekeeping thing to do. The truth that most survivors of these relationships keep in the dark is not actually the obvious one. What he did, how bad it was, the specific incidents, those truths are often known even when they are minimized or explained away. The deeper truth, the one that lives furthest from the light, is this. You knew. You always knew. Somewhere beneath the cognitive dissonance that what was happening was not right. That you deserved different. That the version of yourself being asked to disappear was not a reasonable trade for the love you were receiving. Your gut knew. The stomach drop when he walked in. The particular quality of certain silences that felt different from other silences. The moment when you caught something in his eyes and then immediately explained it away, because the alternative was a truth you weren't yet ready to sit with. That knowing is not a failure. It is not evidence that you should have left sooner or seen it more clearly or been stronger. It is evidence that your intuition was working perfectly the entire time. What was impaired was not your perception. What was impaired was your ability to trust your perception. And that is not a personal failing. That is precisely what this kind of relationship does. And the Scorpio full moon asks you to reclaim that knowing, to look at it clearly, not with the eyes of shame, but with the eyes of someone who finally, fully has permission to see. Now I want to speak to the part of you that perhaps is afraid of what the full illumination might show. The part that's been managing the distance between what it knows and what it is willing to feel for so long that looking directly at the truth feels dangerous. Like it might be too much. Like if you see it fully, I mean really fully, without the cushion of cognitive dissonance, you might fall apart. I want to tell you something about falling apart, about what I have learned from the inside, about what happens when the thing you have been holding together finally releases. It is not destruction. It is decomposition, the compost, the returning of what has served its purpose back to the earth so that something new can grow from it. The falling apart that comes when you finally see clearly. It's not the end of you. It is the end of the armor. And the armor was never you. It was what you built to survive. And here is what I've come to know in the deepest part of my own healing. You were never doing this alone. Not even in the years before you had language for it. Not even in the darkest rooms of the relationship. Not even in the moments when every human support had run out and you were left with nothing but the silence in your own small, exhausted, extraordinary self. God, the universe, source, whatever name sits most naturally in your heart, that intelligence was with you every single moment. Not watching from a distance, but present in the knowing that rose from your gut, in the whisper that said, "This is not right," in the part of you that survived when survival seemed impossible, in the grace that kept the door open just long enough for you to finally walk through it. The whisper from your soul was never random. It was guidance. It was the voice of something larger than the relationship, larger than the pain, larger than anything that was done to you, calling you home. And it never stopped, even when you couldn't hear it, even when the noise of the life you were living drowned it out completely. It was always there, and it brought you here. My friend, you are not what the relationship required you to be. You are not the version of yourself that disappeared inside it. You are the one who is still here after all of it, choosing to come home to you Sunday after Sunday, doing the work. Now, the Scorpio full moon is not asking you to relive the past. It's asking you to just look at it clearly, compassionately, from like the altitude of the eagle, and then release it. Not the memories, not the lessons, not the growth that came from surviving it, but the emotional charge, the shame that was never yours to carry, the version of yourself that still believes somewhere in the body that you were not good enough and you deserve better. Under this full moon, with the Scorpio light falling on it fully, with Venus holding you in its worthiness, with Chiron and Mercury giving you the courage to name it, and God and the universe and source all supporting you, you can finally let it know that you are enough. And what required your disappearance was never a true measure of your worth. It was a measure of the wound of the person asking. And God, the universe, source, whatever lives at the center of your faith, knew your worth when you had forgotten it, held you when you could not hold yourself, and guided you through every detour, every dark room, every year of walking on eggshells towards this, towards the light, towards healing, towards the woman you are becoming and the life you were always meant to be living. That is not an accident. That is grace. Now let's move on to our somatic practice. These three practices work together as a full body and soul preparation for the full moon releasing. They can be done today or on Friday when the full moon peaks, or any time in the window between now and Saturday. Do what calls to you. The body truth scan. You're going to sit quietly. You can close your eyes. Take 3 slow breaths in for 4, holding for 2, and out for 7. And you're going to ask your body, not your mind, one gentle question. What have I been carrying about this relationship that I haven't fully named yet? Now notice where sensation arises. Your chest, your stomach, your throat, perhaps your shoulders or your jaw. Don't push it. Don't analyze it. Just simply notice where it lives in your body. And when you do, place your hand there and breathe warmth into it and say, silently or aloud, I see you. I have been carrying you faithfully, and I am ready now to bring you into the light. Stay here for as long as it feels right. The body will tell you when it has been heard. Now, practice 2 will be shadow journaling. Take a journal or a piece of paper and write, without editing, without organizing, without concern of how it sounds, in response to this prompt. The truth I have been keeping about this relationship is. Now write for as long as you need. Write past the first easy answers into the ones that feel more frightening to name. Write the thing that you have never said to anyone, not even to yourself. The truth I have been keeping about this relationship is. Now, when you are finished, read it back, not with judgment, but with the compassionate steadiness of someone who has been waiting a long time to hear this, and say to the person who just wrote it, I believe you. I always believed you. What you knew was always true. Now, practice 3 is the candle release ritual. For the full moon itself on Friday, May 1st, this is your ritual. Light a candle. Sit before it for a moment and feel its light. Scorpio illuminating what was dark. Now write on a small piece of paper one thing you are ready to release, one belief, one pattern, one aspect of the relationship that required your disappearance that you're ready to let go of. Write it in one sentence, clearly. Then hold it in your hands. Feel the weight of it, the real weight of it, what it has cost you to carry this. And then say, I release this. It has served its purpose. I no longer need it to define me. It is done. Then safely burn the paper with the candle flame, or tear it into pieces and let it go. Whatever feels right and safe for you. The act of releasing it physically signals something profound to the nervous system. The body understands ritual in a way the mind sometimes doesn't. This is the Scorpio full moon release. This is the Phoenix moment. You are not burning yourself. You are burning what was placed on you that was never yours to carry. And those are two very different things. Now let's begin your guided meditation. Find your position, feet on the floor if possible. Feel the ground beneath you, solid, patient, holding you. You have been held by this ground for 7 Sundays now. It knows you. It is not going anywhere. So take one breath in through your nose and a long, slow exhale through your mouth. And let the exhale carry something, not forced, just allowed. Again, in and out. And once more. And this time, as you exhale, feel your body settle down, as if you are being gently released from something you have been holding up. Just for this time, let the holding go. Let the ground hold you instead. You are safe. You are here. And today, whatever surfaces, you are ready for it. Now begin to feel the energy of this week surrounding you, knowing that in a few days the full moon in Scorpio rises, and her light is already beginning to work in you, already beginning to illuminate what has been living in the shadows, the parts of the story you have told yourself at half volume, the truths you have been approaching sideways, never quite head on. Now Mercury and Chiron stand together in Aries, giving you the fire to name what has been wordless and the courage to speak what has been kept silent. And Venus in Taurus stands at your back, holding you in the energy of your own worth, reminding you that what you are about to release was never evidence of what you deserved. It was evidence of what you survived. And you are held by all of this. You are not doing this alone. And beneath the planets, beneath the moon, beneath the somatic practices and the words and the 7 weeks of Sundays, there is something even larger holding you. Feel that energy, that loving, pure, divine presence. God, the universe, source, the intelligence that has been threading its way through your entire story, leaving breadcrumbs of grace in the places that felt most dark. The force that kept the whisper alive in you when everything else went quiet. That whisper from your soul was never just yours. It was the voice of something divine, speaking through the deepest part of you, calling you home. Let yourself feel held by that now, completely, unconditionally, by something that has known your worth since before you were born, and has never, not once, not for a single moment, stopped guiding you toward the light and surrounding you with healing and love. Now bring your awareness slowly through your body, letting it flow through your face and your jaw. Notice if there are words held there, truths that were never safe to say out loud. Let the jaw soften just slightly. The words are safe here. Your throat, where the voice lives, and where it went quiet when it needed to. Notice its quality right now. As your voice continues to return to you, as the pathway between your knowing and your speaking continues to clear, feel your throat open just a little more and breathe. Now notice the energy in your chest, in your heart, and bring your hand here now, your anchor, 7 weeks deep. Feel that steady beat beneath your palm. This heart has loved through so much. Feel its faithfulness. Feel its extraordinary capacity. Now bring your attention to your stomach, your gut. This is where the knowing lives, the body truth, the part that always knew before you had any language for it, before you were ready to let it rise. Now place your awareness here with great gentleness and notice, what is it carrying right now? Don't rush the answer. Let your body speak at its own pace. It has been waiting a long time to be listened to. And as you rest here in the body, in the stillness, notice that beneath the sensation, beneath the emotion, beneath everything the body is holding, there is a steadiness, a quiet that does not belong to the mind, a presence that has been here through all of it. Some call it God, some call it the universe, and some call it Source or the higher self, or simply the love that holds all things. Whatever it is called in you, it is here. It has always been here. Feel it flowing through your body right now, as if someone is just hugging you warmly with compassion and divine love. And in this moment, in exactly the place where the truth lives, is where your light is shining the brightest. Now I want to invite you into a visualization, so allow your inner eye to see this with me. Imagine the full moon in Scorpio is fully risen. The sky is extraordinary. That particular quality of a full moon night where everything is illuminated, where shadows have edges, where the landscape looks both familiar and somehow entirely revealed. You are standing outside under this moon, and in her light, you allow yourself to see something you have not looked at directly until now. The relationship that required you to disappear. Not in its details, not in the specific incidents or the specific pain, but in its pattern, the overall shape of it, the version of yourself it asked you to be, and the version it crowded out, the knowing you carried quietly, the truth you kept in the dark. Look at it in this moonlight, knowing you are safe and surrounded by love and light. Look at it with the eagle's altitude above the immediate emotional weather, able to see the whole landscape. Now give what you see a shape or a color or both, or simply a feeling. What is the texture of this truth that is finally being illuminated? Now hold it and breathe. Acknowledge it and say to it, with the full authority of someone who has been doing 7 weeks of courageous work, I see you. I have always seen you. And I am ready now to let you go. And I am ready now to let you go. And breathe. Now in this moonlit space, I want you to imagine the releasing. Just feel it releasing off of you. Not necessarily the relationship ending, if it has already ended. That has already happened. But the charge, the emotional weight, the way it has lived in your body, the belief it installed that you were not enough to deserve different, that this was the love you were worth. Now imagine that belief as something with weight, a stone or a brick perhaps, or a coat that has been on your shoulders for years, weighing you down so long that you have stopped noticing the weight of it. And under this full moon, in this safe, illuminated space, you take it off. Not with force, not with anger, simply with the quiet authority of someone who knows it was never hers to carry. And breathe. As you feel the weight leaving, feel your shoulders dropping and relaxing deeper in your chest, relaxing the new quality of the breath that is possible when you are not holding something heavy. And notice what remains when the coat is off, when the stone is set down. Notice what is left. What is left is you, the self that was always there beneath the accommodation, the one who knew, the one who survived, the one who has been coming home one Sunday at a time. She's extraordinary. She always was. Now, with your hand on your heart, bring your awareness to what is true in this moment. You are safe. You are loved. You are free of what has been released. You are standing lighter, with more clarity, more fully yourself than you were when this episode began. And let these words land in your body, not as a thought, but as a cellular truth. What required my disappearance was not love. It was a wound meeting my willingness, and I choose from this moment to call something different into my life, something that meets the fullness of who I am, not the diminished version, all of me, as I actually am. I am worthy of being loved without disappearing. Now let that land wherever in the body it needs to, whether it's in the chest or the gut or the throat. Know that it is finally, slowly learning to stay open. Now, one last image before we return. Remember the 3 evolutions of Scorpio. The scorpion who survived in the only way available. The eagle who rose above and gained the perspective to see clearly. And the phoenix. The phoenix who went through the fire. Not the fire that was done to her, but the purifying fire of her own healing, and emerged from it as something new, not broken and repaired, not the same creature, patched and carrying the evidence, but genuinely and fully, beautifully transformed. That is what this full moon is offering you. Not the end of your story, the beginning of the chapter where you are the phoenix, where what was done to you becomes the fire that made you, where the relationship that required your disappearance becomes the very thing that taught you, finally, undeniably, what you are worth. You did not find your way here by accident. You were guided by something patient and faithful and entirely devoted to your becoming. God and the universe and source, call it what feels true in your heart, has been weaving the path beneath your feet the entire time. Every closed door that felt like failure, every dark night that felt endless, every moment of grace that arrived when you had run out of everything else, all of it was guidance, all of it was love, all of it was leading you here. You are rising, my dear friend, and you have been rising for 7 Sundays now. And the moon on Friday is simply the moment the whole sky acknowledges it. And breathe. Now slowly and gently begin to feel the room returning, the weight of your body, the solid ground beneath your feet. And keep your hand on your heart for one final breath. Feel the anchor, the heartbeat that has been faithful through everything, steady and still here. And one more final breath in and a long, slow exhale. Let it carry whatever is ready to be carried out of you today as you release. And when you are ready, slowly and gently open your eyes. And before you return to your day, one final moment. Feel your feet on the ground beneath you solid and faithful and holding you exactly as you are. And taking one more vagus nerve breath, in for 4, hold for 2, and exhale out for 7. Hand on your heart, saying one more time, I am worthy of being loved without disappearing. And that is enough. That is everything. Now take a moment before you stand up and return to your day. Thank you for being here. Feel the quiet that comes after something real has been felt. The particular quality of the air in the room where truth has been allowed to exist. The slight lightness, even if it's subtle, even if it's small, that comes when something that has been carried underground is finally allowed to surface. For 7 Sundays, we have done the whisper, the seed, the voice, the safety, the fire, the becoming, and today, the illumination. The truth that was kept in the dark, brought into the full moon light. The relationship that required your disappearance, named and honored, and beginning to release it. So on Friday, when the full moon peaks, use the candle ritual if it calls to you. Write the one thing you're releasing. Feel the weight of it. Say the words and let the fire have it. And come back next Sunday because episode 8 is the continuation of this. In the softer, waning light after the full moon's full illumination, we go even deeper. We sit with the things you knew before you were ready to know them. The stomach drops, the gut that was always right, and how to finally, fully begin to trust it. Now, if you reach something in you today, I hope you will share this. There is someone in your life who is carrying this same truth in their same darkness. Please send this to them. And you can find me every week here, offering you a safe place to land. And if this work of coming home has felt great for you, and it's something you want to do with more support and more depth, more of someone walking alongside you, I want you to know that I am here for you for exactly that. I am now offering private one-to-one sessions with packages available as well for those who are ready to move beyond listening and into the living. My work combines everything I've studied and everything I've lived and experienced. Somatic trauma-informed coaching, inner child work, internal family systems, nervous system regulation, personalized guided meditations, Reiki, and even emotional freedom techniques woven together into a practice that is entirely yours No two sessions are the same because no two people carry the same wound in the same way. You do not have to do this alone. I am here when you're ready. So until next Sunday, do the body truth scan, write the shadow journal, and on Friday, light the candle for yourself. You have earned every flicker of it. And remember, my friend, you are worthy, you are enough, you are loved, and you are already home. Till next time, love and hugs.